Yeah, I hope everyone can hear us. We have a different setup today, so I want to make sure that everything's cool. Let me just come in here as well. So, how's your day been, Amanda?
Um, Interesting, I guess. I just felt a lot of physical pressure today
Yeah.
in the body. So, yeah, just sitting with it, being with it, trying to give it space.
While there are kids. Yeah.
While they jump on me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has been that.
Well, I mean, that's really along the theme of what we wanted to talk about today, actually. Because really you were faced with this intense challenge that wanted you to like give it all this healing space, or that something you needed all that, but then there was just kids. There's the pressure of kids and the psychology of pain and children that don't nap some days.
Yeah,
It can all coincide.
yeah. I don't want to give you any space.
So, I don't know. I mean, what have you found in terms of what helps work through that kind of impossible seeming dilemma?
I don't know. I mean, every time it's something different, or it's a combination of things. Sometimes it's just breathing, you know. A lot of the time it's essential oils. Um, just when you know where you want to be, but there's just like still some stagnation there, and it really can just like help get over that hurdle, or not. And sometimes you just end up yelling.
Yeah, yeah, for
And
sure.
losing your cool, and then realizing,
Oh, is
oh,
there no sound? Do we have sound problems? Oh, okay, hold on, let me see. Let's see. Let me know. Let's see.
oh,
Let me know. Let's see. Let me know. Let's see. Let me
better.
know. Okay. All right. Oh, there. That fixed it. Well, we had. Let me make sure this is charging. Then, sorry guys. We had a weird moment with with our microphone. Well, thank you for letting us know our sound was so strangely low. That's much better.
Cool.
Let's see. MD Mantis Toboggan has returned to tell us that Trudeau is a husk. Yes.
What does that mean?
Hey, we've been good, and yes, this is true. Yeah, absolutely. He is a husk of a human being. We're doing okay. I don't know. We wanted to share some of our insights into maintaining the strength and the harmony of the family unit through these times, just because families are under so much pressure now. With all the pressure to not go out, right? To work from home. A lot more families are homeschooling. So, in a society where a lot of families who are, let's say, in the public schooling system, well, those children are in school 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. They're away from the parents most of the week. So for that to flip
Mm-hmm.
on billions of families,
Mm-hmm.
billions of families,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, that's an intense amount of psychological pressure for all the different tendencies and karmas of those family members to suddenly now be in a confined space together. This is really, really intense. It's why one of the major impacts of this is mental health of children.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I really feel like it's a super important topic, and of course, it's not getting the attention that it should in the mainstream media. It's mentioned sometimes, but not to the
Yeah.
extent that anyone would question policies.
Not nearly enough. Not nearly enough, for sure.
Yeah, so I think looking at it from a karmic perspective has been really helpful for me. Understanding that learning to honor each other's sort of karmic patterns as you are put in this position of spending more and more time together. Now, we were, coming into the whole lockdown scenario with a great advantage because we were already a homeschooling family. And so we were already really just learning to live with each other that for those long periods of time, right? Which is, not common for all families in the sort of normal system. So it was true that I think the transition was probably easier on us into it in certain ways because of that experience.
In some ways, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's being stuck inside. It's true. It's being stuck indoors because our homeschooling involved lots of other people before that we've lost from our lives, and
Yeah.
not everyone, or it's changed drastically. And then the mental health of the parents matters a lot too.
Yeah.
They're around you, their cells are your cells. So, they have their karma, obviously, but
Well, when you live together in a physical space, there is a lot more biological entrainment. There's naturally going to be, right? So a lot more entrainment between your hearts, a lot more entrainment with like certain hormonal patterns, and then of course digestive patterns, right? Because you're all sharing like emotional states and like all these patterns start to form within the family, which is why I love that idea of the family biome, right? That the family generates its own biome, and so I think reconciling it in this way is important. Understanding that you become this ecosystem on all levels together.
Family organism.
You're like a superorganism. You are.
Yeah.
It's and I think families are meant to be very, very strong and resilient. The family unit today is, from my understanding, it's under a lot of pressure, or it's even under attack. In certain ways. But we are meant to develop very, very strong, resilient families, and to be able to deal with a great, scope of issues within the family without having to go into the outside world to deal with it. I think the family really is a healthy family should be able to cope with quite a bit on its own within itself. Unless there's something drastic. So, this is a calling, I think, this whole lockdown situation that has left so many families sort of cooped up together to really, strengthen the family and to become something that carries and protects through what's going on. I think it's an ideal in certain ways, but I found it very motivating myself, I have to say.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it helps to look at it in a way too where you're gonna face yourself in a lot of ways, and so if you're open to looking at it like that and looking at your conditioning, that helps. I mean, it's still difficult because it's difficult to acknowledge your own conditioning.
Yeah.
So that's really not easy, but it's doing the work, and it really does lighten, we do it, we do the work, so it's hard, but it lightens it, so.
Yeah. And you have to, you have to do that when you're put in this position. You have to find those ways to create lightness around it. There's no other way through it. Really, you have to. I mean, that's been sort of my experience where it's I just have to step up. I really just have to step up because that's the way that it's going. But I think the intensity of it is really interesting because everyone knows, this whole idea. You were talking about this the other day of if you really want to test where you're at spiritually in your progress of self-knowledge, then you look at your family, and your relationships within family and your struggles with family, and that really highlights what you need to work on quite often, So you think of that principle, that idea that family really, really pushes us the most to grow, and then you put it in a coronavirus pandemic box and sort of shake it around. I'm gonna go turn that phone off. Yeah, it's really.
Yeah, because there is an added level of warfare, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, when you think about that affecting, you know, obviously we're resilient beings, but it's quite drastic for the children, you know.
Yeah.
It's drastic for us.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that, you know, Asher has been very articulate in sort of pretty consistently asking when is the coronavirus going to end? You know, he asks quite frequently.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for his own reasons, for his own ambitions and things like that. But, you know, a lot of children are really wondering what the heck's going on because it's really super confusing, right? And it depends, you know, on what what sort of vibe they're given. And I think it's important to be authentic with the kids, like to not like hide, like you know, as if you need to like shield them from the reality of what's going on. I think being pretty open about it is beneficial, but what we've really found is just not really living from any of the fear, so that they don't feel that way. That's not really the vibe we go about, you know, dealing with this. And I've noticed, you know, when we're out in the world, they're not like out there afraid of a virus. They're not, you know, they're weirded out maybe that everyone's kind of walking around in masks, or at least they were at first. But you know, I'm really happy for that, and also though really concerned because I know that a lot of parents are super afraid, and then the children are taking that on as well, and so much of that is just from propaganda. So it's like it's kind of a bummer. Like I think that's why I push so hard personally to try and like break up the narrative publicly, because it's causing so much harm. This false narrative is really, really scaring people. You know, people are super frightened, and I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a test of those tools, and it's like, you know, Marianne was just saying that, you know, some people are really struggling to step up, and this is where we're causing like more abuse and more struggles within the family.
True. Yeah.
And that's especially hard because, you know, a lot of the resources that would have dealt with that before, you know, they've fallen away. And I think, you know, it's another way that it shows the cracks in the system that were existing, the things that were very, very flimsy, that weren't really there to support. So, you know, if we're going to have to rebuild this society, if we're going to have to, you know, do a great awakening instead of a great reset and sort of shift the timeline, I mean, how do we even begin to build, you know, resources for the vulnerable, like that are more rock solid, that can survive a pandemic? Like, how do you even do that? I'll admit, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard enough to maintain normally.
Yeah.
So, what do you have in the diffuser today?
I went for ylang ylang. Ylang ylang, lime, and peppermint, and of course frankincense.
King.
My favorite.
Yes,
so
the
good.
king of oils.
Always have to have it around.
Well, so we've been playing around with those aura sprays as well, which was kind of fun.
Yeah, we've been thinking of more ways. Like, at least for me, it really makes sense to add a lot more ritual to our days, especially when we're inside.
Yeah.
A
lot. A lot of air purification rituals, for sure.
Yeah, and like realizing that we're kind of walking around, slumping around with, you know, our auras dragging.
Yeah.
Kind of fuzzy feeling. So yeah, we've been like ending the day with just cleansing the room with a spray that's, you know, set with intentions, and some oils to protect the kids at night, so that, you know, as best as we can, to add to their sleep routine, to make their sleeps wholesome and clear, and in the morning starting with the spray just to get them started. Like, it helps with transitions in the day, like adding ritual to the transition of all of our activities.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
and I found it really, really helpful as well.
Yeah.
Like, I have to admit, I never really worked with my aura through like specific mists or anything like that. Like, I had never experienced that.
But you've done smudging.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's similar.
It's very similar.
That way.
And actually, it's like a little bit more of an accessible ritual, especially with kids. What was the morning one that you created? Was it cedarwood or something?
Yeah, there was cedarwood, tangerine, and rosemary.
It was so
It
good.
was a good one. And then with quartz, like a quartz crystal inside to amplify it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Like cleansing of air is really, really important now with all the extra time being spent inside. And as winter gets colder, there's going to be a lot more of that.
Yeah.
So, for example, we our air system here, there's like a filter, and we take it out and we clean it. But we also started putting essential oils on the filter so that the
Yeah.
air system just circulates it all throughout the house. It works really, really well. And I think we have that in an air purifier, and we'll smudge every once in a while and have the diffusers. And I think all the different kinds of air purification are super important with the extra time inside. It's just like you have to do it. It's so important. I noticed when we weren't for a while, like taking care of things better. We didn't have the air purifier running as much, and it really it kind of creeps up on you.
Yeah.
And then you don't realize it's that bad until much later in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been really crucial. And the kids, you can tell, right? And that's the thing that it's a really good example for me because, people will be like, well, does the aura spray do anything for you?
Yeah.
And I can say it does, but when I just see how it affects the children who have no idea what's, I'm not telling them anything. I'm just going, okay, run through this.
Run through this mist.
Spray, run through. And then experimenting and watching it happen. So,
yeah,
it's quite helpful. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Marianne's asking about water purifier in the shower. I've never had that before. I would love to have something like that for sure.
That would be really nice.
We struggle with with our kids, like trying to get them to not drink the bath water or the shower water, right? Because they want to put it in their mouths and spit and just be little kids. And it's brutal. They have to be like, please don't swallow this specific water, like the water that's pouring out of the tap that you're playing in freely. It's very difficult for them to understand. Obviously, we can't really stop it a lot of the time. Yeah, bath water. Bath water is especially gross.
Who didn't drink bath water?
Oh yes, eucalyptus oil in the tub.
Oh yeah, so good.
You know what I really liked though was when we actually bought a sprig of eucalyptus. Remember that? And we hung it in the shower, and then every time we had a shower, it would heat up the eucalyptus sprig, and it would just
really nice.
diffuse. It was really amazing. I had never seen a eucalyptus sprig until then.
Right on.
Yeah, it's very good.
Cool.
Yeah. I think that's one of those things too where it's really rooted in helping the breath. I know that I've wanted to do more oils and stuff in the shower, or even just deeper breathing in the shower where I know the water is cleaning the air. It's really I think we were talking about this in one of the lives already, that just more breath rituals in general, because the planet and the masking and everything that people are being put through on an individual level is really going to support people on a collective.
Yeah, a lot of breath work for sure.
Really?
Yeah, I put eucalyptus in the shower this morning with lemon oil.
Where did we get that sprig, and how long did it last?
You know what? I think the eucalyptus we had was dried.
Oh, okay.
So maybe a few days, 5 days or something, I want to say. I don't honestly remember.
Yeah.
But it was really nice.
Yeah, it worked for quite a while. It was great.
Yeah, and rubbing eucalyptus on the chest. I've been doing it with the kids, even as preventative, and just putting a little bit on their chest, diluted, every night.
Yeah.
Almost every night.
Yeah.
Not every night, but a few times a week. Really nice.
Oh yeah, melatonin. Do you know what we found that really helped reset sleep cycles was California poppy tea and valerian.
For what? For sleep?
For getting deeper sleeps.
Oh yeah.
I found that really
California poppy.
Yeah, it's it was a little intense because it I needed to sleep in the next day a little bit because it put me into such a deep sleep. But it kind of like re-taught my body how to sleep, so that after that the sleeps were like proper.
Better, deeper.
Yeah, it was like my body, my nervous system had forgotten how to like let go that much while I was sleeping. So like the poppy and the valerian sort of just, I think I had to do it like 3 or 4 nights in a row or something to get that to happen though.
Right.
Once you do it again, it's just hard to deal with the next day of the first the session is really groggy because it puts you so deep, but over time it works really well. That starts to go away and then your sleep returns to you, your proper sleep, so that you need less sleep. You need less sleep because you're getting like deeper, richer sleep when you do. That's probably one of the reasons why I'm always wanting to sleep in, because my sleep's so crummy.
I don't think I've tried valerian.
I mix them. I would do them both together.
Cool.
Oh, John D'Souza advocates bathing in the dark.
Oh, nice. It's nice.
I do
that a lot.
I used to do that every morning.
It was a thing. So what is it? Like a sensory thing? Deprivation?
Did I have strange dreams from the poppy and valerian? I don't recall anything.
I have from poppy for sure.
You have?
Yeah.
I was just out. Maybe it's because I took it with the valerian. It would just like put me out hard. I would literally. It was so strong for me that I'd have to make the tea, set it next to my bed, like brush my teeth, get everything ready, and then like have my tea in bed and just like read a book, and I'd just be like.
Oh my gosh. Cool.
Yeah, no, I used to ritualistically have a pitch black shower every morning.
Wow.
Oh, so good. I loved it.
Nice.
For me, it was like a nervous system thing where I just wanted to bring light to my eyes more slowly and see what it was like to be just more mindful and gradual with like building light into the day. Because it was a time in my life when I was working really early, so I was always up before sunrise. So there was that natural darkness outside, and I didn't feel like going into a bathroom with like blasting lights at like 4 a.m. It just felt unnatural in certain ways, so I was finding ways to like stay in the darkness for longer periods of my morning and trying to keep the light low. It was very therapeutic, really actually more mindful. I really enjoyed that ritual. But I was talking too about Montauk Chia. That came up last time, that Montauk Chia has that center where everyone lives in the dark for like 2 weeks while meditating and living a simple life in the dark, and it triggers a DMT release. Crazy.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right on.
You've been waking up with lights flashing in your head. So strong you thought it was a police car.
Wow.
Ooh, that's intense.
That's really intense.
Yeah, flashes. I've definitely had all kinds of weird flash moments for sure.
Recently?
But they're colors.
Oh.
It's more like a reddish color.
Interesting.
Yeah, it could be pineal. It could be pineal for sure.
Right.
Yeah. So, what else have you found in terms of resources people are sharing to support like families and children right now? Have you seen much that people are offering? I know that they've been trying to increase the amount of like online support, like educationally and stuff. Obviously, there's a big push for that, but I don't know, more screen time.
More screen time?
It's not really a huge help, I guess. Like, no, I just mean the number of resources increasing for kids online. You're like, yeah, but I still have a limit of screen time that I'd like to maintain to a certain extent. But yeah.
No, it's just definitely trickier with not the same community that you had before, just because it has to be. So it is hard to watch the kids like miss those things,
Absolutely.
Asher wants to go to the arcade.
And a play place. Although there might be one outside of Toronto that's open.
Possible if we go outside the city.
Yeah, it's funny here in Toronto that it's it's all locked down, but you could drive like 30 minutes, and there are things open.
Yeah.
It's pretty ridiculous. But people are calling it out. I've seen lots of people be critical of it online, which is good, I guess.
Yes, books. Books are so good.
Yeah, definitely
do
try
a
to
lot.
increase the book intake, especially like for the kids.
Yeah.
And that's been actually really helpful.
It's quite good. We actually, we're going to, I think, maybe get some Tuttle Twins.
Tuttle Twins,
books
yes. Oh my gosh.
To start reading to Asher. Well, to read to both, I guess. But
if you don't know about Tuttle Twins, look them up. For they create children's literature, and it's like woke children's literature. It's really, really unique. They've created content that's about teaching children about self-sufficiency and small government, justice, law. Lots of very interesting topics, like dealt with in a really responsible way. I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Yeah, California. California does seem to be the worst. I'm really glad I'm not in California. I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty real there. Newsom's getting pretty crazy now.
Oh my gosh. I don't know.
Ah, yes, you're a conscious parenting coach. Yes. I believe this has come up before. That's such a great service.
That's one thing.
Oh, that's a good resource. I'm sure. I mean, you're offering something that people really, really need right now. So it's a good time to be doing that.
Yeah, it's a good time to build those skills if those parents are interested.
Yeah.
It's definitely needed. It's definitely needed. It's a lot to do.
Yeah, I'll say that one of the main things that's really emphasized for me in terms of, it just putting more pressure on us mentally, so that, it's harder to be more mindful, and it's like there's so much more self-regulation that you end up having to exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really emphasized more of like what you do after the mistakes than the mistake itself. Like focusing way more on that. I've had to double down my focus in that way, because then it's all about modeling. Then it's all about modeling like mistakes, and that's super, super important.
Yeah.
So I found relying on that pretty heavily has been very therapeutic.
Yeah, I mean, it helps show that, you're not afraid to admit that you're wrong, and, even if you still feel ashamed in that moment, you can still be like, yeah, I still feel that as an adult.
Yeah.
Sometimes before it passes through. Being open but very simple with what's going on with them, I find helps a lot because of their age too. Like we don't want to hide our emotions. They know, they sense what's going on. They're very intuitive. So like not pretending that everything's okay when it's not okay.
Yeah, because I remember I experienced that a lot growing up. Yeah.
So you're confused because your parents are like, everything's fine, and then they're having, panic attacks or yelling at you constantly, and it's very confusing, and your trust gets damaged.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. It feels like you start to, you're destabilized because you're not sure what to expect.
Yeah, exactly. There's kind of like a split going on, and you don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Super confusing.
Like, I've definitely been that person who's done it to my own kids. That's how I know. I'm like, I just, like, the way that I went about dealing with that was destabilizing for them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's my conditioning.
No, it's hard. It's hard to reconcile.
Yeah.
It's hard to reconcile all of it because it's just such a drastic increase. All of it. It's like all the things that were challenging within the family space just all got amplified. But I have also found myself really relying on how resilient kids naturally are.
Yes.
And the way they're able to adapt, and
they're not like us. Their minds are Ours are more rigid. Like, it's obviously, not, but they
Yeah.
are much more flexible.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
The conditioning's not so deep.
Yeah, and I
Not
think
quite the same.
I think often too about the astrology of their generation and what they came here to do, and this is defining for them. Whether or not it's full of injustice, from that perspective isn't really the point, because it's such a defining catalyst for this generation. This whole generation of kids, they're
Yeah.
coming through this.
Yeah.
They're going to develop a value system that's rooted in this experience. They grew up inside this whole pandemic narrative. They developed within it. This is a long time for kids. This is a really long time.
So long.
Like, it's a crazy long time for children. So this is becoming foundational to who they are, but just purpose there, right? They're, obviously, their souls came here being like, okay, I'm going to roll up during COVID and, use that time for my primary developmental years.
COVID.
It's a pretty wild life path, but hey, I really respect it, because that generation is really poised to create new structures,
Yeah, and with the Jupiter conjunction,
Yes.
the Jupiter Saturn conjunction, and everything going on, it's quite pressurized.
Yeah. Yeah. So if they're going to be dealing with helping us build new structures in this world, maybe they're here to witness the collapse of some of it when they're in this primary state, to really embody that, to understand what needs to happen and grow from it.
Yeah.
Very interesting, like super interesting what that generation's going to do with this.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for them.
I know. They're so great. It's just awesome.
Yeah, talking to kids about their mission.
Yeah.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
You know what I tend to do with Asher right now is really focus on like our mission and like what him and I are here to do together, and like what we can focus and grow on together, and what we're working on that's parallel.
Yeah.
He really responds to that. It's like that's kind of how we created we created the Ninja Up ritual.
Yes.
We do this ritual, Asher and I, where we put our hands in a prayer position and we do an inhalation like this, and then we grow a flower on the exhale and just kind of bow to each other, and it's become our Ninja Up ritual. Yeah. But it's really been about like this sort of like shared warrior stance of like focusing up and like moving into a task and trying to be goal oriented into whatever we're doing. And again, it's like transitions. Like you find these anchors, these ways of transitioning children that builds their strengths into whatever the next task is. It's so important. And it makes so much sense to me that autistic children, they're like, so many of the autistic children I've met and worked with, their maximum stress is transitions.
Yeah.
And so you think if there's, heightened awareness of any kind, when we transition, there's so many things going on. Like just from like a multi-dimensional perspective, you have everyone's auras and intentions and what people have been eating and what's happened in the room and like what the walls of the room have absorbed recently, kind of like emanating. So
it's a lot.
Of course, when a super sensitive child transitions, any of that could be factors in addition to all the other sort of physical stimuli that are going on.
Yeah. Well, that's why I like the aromatherapy and the scents for transitions too, because that will become more of a response. They'll smell something, they'll help them ease in the transition, even if it's not the first time. And obviously each kid is different, but you have to trial and error.
Yeah.
And work with the kid, but it can be very beneficial, and the kid will start to lean on them too. And I get really excited about introducing them to those things so early on in their lives.
I get jealous.
Help them shift their brain and get them to help them do what they want to do.
Yeah. Yes,
It
they have
helps
clear
them.
ambitions. They have really, a lot of the time, they know what they want to do.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the time.
It really is quite powerful and empowering. I want it to not be something that is forced upon them, but something they choose because they see the inherent value in it.
Yeah.
Like anything, like most things, you know.
Yeah, empowerment, you know.
To force very little on them. You know, obviously we have to do something.
Sometimes you do have to be forceful, and that's
But,
just, you know, children are going to lack boundaries because they're children. And so if you don't put
Yeah.
up boundaries, they don't know what boundaries are. I mean, you know, that to me is my understanding of discipline. It's really just related to boundaries.
Right.
Internal boundaries and external boundaries, right?
Okay.
So, like, within yourself, how you manage, you know. But I think the word discipline can be, like, a trigger for some people. I know this has come up in Worlds Within. I had, you know, someone who was really curious about our parenting style and what I had been teaching about learning about maximum freedom being one of the greatest catalysts for learning. And that doesn't just mean doing nothing and like backing off. Sometimes children are freed by the structures that you give them. Sometimes they're freed by the way you frame your support. Sometimes then that's what frees them.
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed that there's sometimes when people talk about like free parenting and parenting from the stance of child-led learning, you know, people get concerned that there's no discipline, that child must have no discipline.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not right. It's not right. The child will never grow up properly. Like, you know, that vibe is still sort of out there.
Well, because people think, like, you know, there's a form of control that you're misconstruing something else.
Yes.
Like, you're just simply trying to control them.
Yep.
And maybe you're really just trying to control yourself and your own emotions. You know, because when the child acts in a certain way, and I can say that for myself, where it's like, oh, my go-to is like to try to, you know, help them ease something.
Yes.
Which can be good, but then there are times you want to just allow the release and just let it go, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's good to check in with yourself and be like, you know, is this a supportive thing, or is this something that I'm doing out of because I'm unsettled by their feelings.
Exactly.
And their choices. You know, because they feel it, and Asher's very sensitive to those things. I would say more so than he senses like things that isn't even control.
Yeah, any form of control, but I respect it because he's here for personal freedom.
Yeah,
it's so clear that his soul has like laser sights set on maximum freedom. He's so, and not that like, you know, all children are to a certain extent, but you know, some kids are just more sort of at the whims of others, and you know, no, he's here for like maximum freedom, absolute reduction in how much anyone controls anything he does, thinks, says at all. And I really respect it because if that can be developed in a mature way, then it can be so powerful. Yeah. You know, that kind of will towards freedom.
For sure. And like the thing that we can help him learn in a safe way right now is like when he, you know, infringes upon the freedom of another person, how he can lose some freedom, or how his choices can end up, he, you know, maybe instantaneously feel free to him, but in sort of the longer term or in the bigger picture, he loses something and he loses some freedom. Yeah. And so he's quite at 5. He's even seeing some of those things, and we can facilitate those situations when we're around. We can help him see things. It's not like he's having a fun time. But he's seeing some of those things.
Yeah, no, he gets it. No, it's true. It's true. And, you know, they're just saying that, you know, asking when we're bothered by a behavior, what about it is bothering us? It's true. It's such a good key question.
Yeah, exactly.
Such a good key question because so often it's just our desire to control, or we're just tired. Like, you know, I'll say as a parent, you know, sometimes it's just like, I don't want to do that. So I'm putting up a boundary because I just don't want to go through the motions of a certain activity or whatever it is. And so I'm saying no because I'm at a personal boundary myself.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I just didn't feel like doing something, and then I'm like, wait a minute, no, that's stupid. That's just me saying I don't feel like doing it, but I'm going to do it because I want to do this for them. But it depends, it depends on like the mode that I'm in, or what's happening in the day, and like it's a good sort of shift to be like, okay, wait a minute, do I need to draw a boundary for myself? Am I saying no for that, or am I just stressed and I could relax and I could actually move on with it? Like there's so many different variables that could be happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, strong-willed does equal strength. It's true. It's true. Well, so Asher has type 1 diabetes. And so, he goes through a lot each day. He takes 4 injections every day and many, many blood checks. And, you can see how his strong will, the strength of his spirit, it's been very obvious in the way that he has dealt with this. He was diagnosed at 3 years old. And he's so incredibly, he's so crazy responsible with it. Like, he blows my mind. He blows my mind.
Yeah.
But also, in some ways, it's been helpful to him. Strangely, the sort of regimentation of it. He kind of thrives in that level of structure in some ways. Obviously, it's restrictive, and some kind of advanced technology could heal this. Obviously, we'd be down with that. I'm sure it exists. I'm sure it exists in some sort of underground lab. Some creep show government project that could heal everything.
He knows out there.
But too, when your child has brought a catalyst here that's a mainstay of like their life path, you can tell. You can tell. Your children's like sort of anchors in terms of their life challenges pretty quickly, pretty early on. With Asher, there was a lot that was very clear right from breastfeeding. It was like, oh, I see what this guy's working on. Okay. And that perspective can be very helpful in terms of what a deeper pattern is, because when you start to notice that, oh, this is something they might be working on for this whole life, you can really soften around it, where you're like, oh, whoa, I'm not going to help, this is not a thing I'm going to help them move past through my parenting. There's just, you can tell there's some things where you're like, no, this is a bigger thing for them. I have to respect that they're having this deeper challenge for a deeper reason, and my anxious desire to like get them out of it now might actually be an obstacle to what they're trying to do as a soul.
Yeah, and it can be adding a lot of anxiety.
Yes, to some,
and it could come across as you not accepting them.
As well. That's right, because there's something in them. Let's say there's just a part of their personality that they cannot change.
And your anxiety around it is like a dismissal of just who they are and what they're doing.
Yeah.
So, but that's the beauty of the family, and all the karma that enmeshes, right? So it's like, it's so multifaceted.
Yeah.
It's like he came here with something, and what he came with is also helping us see what we also have. So it's just, when there's a struggle, we are holding the struggle sort of together.
I really believe the family unit is a vehicle for spiritual evolution, or that it can be. That structure, that fundamental evolutionary sort of, I don't know, that there's something in nature that utilizes the family unit as something that can be a stable mechanism to transmute life into wisdom. Mm-hmm. Especially if a family learns to pass that on intergenerationally, then it becomes extremely powerful. When families can use lines of knowledge to grow wisdom, yes. I mean, this is an incredible thing. It's something that's been destroyed, purposefully in our modern culture. Mm-hmm. But the family's ability to retain and to sort of curate wisdom and then pass that on, it's so important, and we need that back. Like, humanity needs that. Yeah. We've lost so much spiritual wisdom because of the failing family unit, because of its integrity being lost and its stability being lost and its coherence being lost. So as that starts to come back online, there's going to be like an uptick in the amount of wisdom that's retained and then like passed on. Like, I think humanity can progress very quickly, exponentially, by healing the family unit. I think it will be a huge, huge leap forward. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. for sure.
Well, let's see if there's any more questions, and we'll start to wrap things up. Yes, seeing children as souls. It's true. It's true. So important to regularly come back to that. And I find
That's true.
talking to them about it is an interesting thing too. Talking to Asher about past lives and living in a body and living in other bodies, and it's very clear he has past lives as a soldier, that he was in a lot of wars. Like we found that in his chart. We were like, okay, yeah. And you read a chart and you're like, whatever, I don't know if that's true. Let's still wait and be with the being to let them show us what's really going on.
Yeah.
But it really was confirmed. But that was helpful. Man, do I ever recommend people getting birth charts for their children early on?
Very helpful.
So helpful. We were able to hold so much more compassion and patience for certain challenging aspects.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, everyone, I think that's about all we have to give today, unless anyone has any other questions. We have a link in the description of the video to hook up with our services in terms of essential oils and some wellness counseling and things like that. So check out the link in the
Look at
video.
Bunky. He's looking at you so sweetly.
Hi.
Sorry to interrupt you. I just had to say that. He's our cat. He's not doing too well, so.
Yeah, he's kind of sick.
It's so nice to see him. He just joined, so it must be all the good vibes or something.
The good resonance, you might say.
Maybe. He needs to be cleaned up.
Oh, I gotta wipe his face.
But yes.
Yeah, we are really, really grateful for guests coming and hanging out with us. Thanks for
Thank
listening.
you.
Thanks for contributing and sharing and helping us build this and offer it to the
It's so
community.
nice.
Yeah, really grateful.
Every
So,
time.
we look forward to seeing everyone next week.
Cool.
Good night, everyone.